President-elect Trump will take the oath of office in less than a month. A new USA Today poll shows he has less than a 41% approval rating. Now, that is significantly lower than previous president-elects. The poll also looks at President Obama's legacy, the president-elect's progress on unity, and who could be a Democratic challenger in 2020. USA Today's Washington bureau chief Susan Page is here. Good morning, Susan.
Hey, good morning.
So what does this mean, Trump's approval rating, for that typical kind of honeymoon period that a new president has?
It means he hasn't had the boost that we've seen other modern presidents get. Even George W. Bush, remember that very contested election in 2000, had an approval rating of 50% or so at this point. Donald Trump is not viewed favorably even by all the people who voted for him. He got 46% of the vote. His favorable rating in our poll is just 41%. 16% of his own voters either don't have a favorable view of him or aren't sure. So he clearly has some work to do in convincing Americans he's the right person for the job that he has won.
Mm-hmm. Jobs are a top issue among people in your poll. What do you think President-elect Trump's cabinet picks mean about his economic policies at this point?
Well, we've got a lot to learn about that. It's a more establishment, I think, a set of nominations than we thought we might see. He had kind of a populist message during the campaign. We don't see that reflected in his cabinet picks. But we do see a lot of unity among Americans, those who voted for him and those who didn't, that they want him to focus on keeping and creating jobs in this country, far outdistancing any other concern that they have.
But, Susan, they sound like they have conflicting ideas on whether they want him to carry out with other campaign promises. On immigration, the president-elect was asked yesterday about the Berlin attack and seemed to double down on his announced hardline position regarding a Muslim ban. What do his supporters want in the polling that you found?
You know, it's so interesting. Even among those who voted for him, only 50% say he doesn't need to be bound by his campaign promises. He should do what he needs to do, even if it means reversing positions. Just 39%, about 4 in 10, said, yes, we want him to do exactly what he said he was going to do during the campaign. And issues
4 in 10.
4 in 10. Issues like immigration or lock her up, you know, investigating Hillary Clinton. These rank really low on the list of concerns, even among his own supporters. People are focused on jobs primarily and secondarily on fighting terrorism.
News this morning about Kellyanne Conway, the first female campaign manager to have the person elected. She's going to take a job inside the West Wing.
I talked to Kellyanne Conway about this last week. She said she was going to come to Washington, but she was thinking about working on that outside group that's going to be created to push President-elect Trump's agenda. But she said it was possible she'd be inside. She's interesting. She is a pretty relentless spokesperson. She's been a very public face for Donald Trump, and she's pushed back with him at times. Remember when Mitt Romney was being considered for Secretary of State? Yeah. She was very public in saying that was going to be a mistake, and she told me that Donald Trump does not mind people who speak up. That's what he likes, and that's the position she's going to be in the White House.
One interesting thing in your poll regarding President Obama's legacy was that the Affordable Care Act came out as his biggest achievement, but also his biggest failure. What does that say about where we are?
It says we're pretty polarized, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it says that the Affordable Care Act, which is one of those promises that we think Republicans plan to go through with, plan to repeal the Affordable Care Act, is going to continue to really divide this nation. For people who support President Obama, they think that's the best thing he did in 8 years. For people who oppose him, they say it is the worst.
I heard, though, that's interesting in that 90-minute meeting that President Obama and President Trump had in the Oval Office, that President Obama sort of taught Donald Trump a lot about the Affordable Care Act that he didn't know about, that changed Trump's mind a bit. And he doesn't want to, I've been told by someone, doesn't want to embarrass the president in terms of the repeal.
Well, there's also the reality that the top 5 states with the highest enrollment in 2016 were all states that Donald Trump won.
Pretty fundamental
Big
Republican
reporting from the New York
promise,
Times today about the interest in that, even in red states.
And, you know, the Republican Congress has voted to repeal it over and over again, you know, and this is a promise, I think, that Republicans plan to follow through on.
Susan Page, thank you for that interesting and confounding polling.